Good morning, everyone. As promised, I'm going to continue to keep you apprised of new developments. Some significant developments, I think, occurred over the course of the last few days with information that was brought to my attention. And I'm going to just sort of read a very brief statement, and that's about all I can tell you, but I want to keep you fully informed of what's happening. At our open hearing on Monday, I encouraged anyone who has information about relative topics, including surveillance on President-elect Trump or his transition team, to come forward and speak to the House Intelligence Committee. I also said that while there was not a physical wiretap of Trump Tower, I was concerned that other surveillance activities were used against President Trump and his associates. So first, I recently confirmed that on numerous occasions the intelligence community incidentally collected information about U.S. citizens involved in the Trump transition. Details about U.S. persons associated with the incoming administration, details with little or no apparent foreign intelligence value, were widely disseminated in intelligence community reporting. Third, I have confirmed that additional names of Trump transition team members were unmasked. And fourth and finally, I want to be clear, none of this surveillance was related to Russia or the investigation of Russian activities or of the Trump team. The House Intelligence Committee will thoroughly investigate surveillance and its subsequent dissemination to determine a few things here that I want to read off. Who was aware of it? Why it was not disclosed to Congress? Who requested and authorized the additional unmasking? Whether anyone directed the intelligence community to focus on Trump associates, and whether any laws, regulations, or procedures were violated. I've asked the directors of FBI, NSA, and CIA to expeditiously comply with my March 15th letter that you all received a couple weeks ago, and to provide a full account of these surveillance activities. I informed Speaker Ryan this morning of this new information, and I will be going to the White House this afternoon to share what I know with the President and his team. Before I get to questions, I want to say that, as you know, there's just been what appears to be a terrorist attack in the United Kingdom. Obviously very concerned, and our thoughts and prayers go out to our strong friends and allies over across the pond. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Mr. Nunes, was any of these communications landing picked up at Trump Tower?
We don't know that yet. That's why we need to get the information. I will say this. The NSA has been very, very helpful. They know how important these programs are. They are in constant communication with our team. And as you know, they partially complied with our request last week. And I expect them to hopefully get us more information by Friday. And I have spoke to Admiral Rogers about these concerns, and he wants to comply as quickly as he can.
And was the President also part of that incidental collection, his communications?
Yes.
They were?
Yes.
So wait, excuse me, let me just clarify. The President of the United States' personal communications were intercepted as an
No, I think we have to, I think what we have to, it's very, when we talk about intelligence products here, we got to be very careful. From what I know right now, it looks like incidental collection. We don't know exactly how that was picked up, but we're trying to get to the bottom of it.
The President of the United States' personal communications were collected in incidental collection, not in specific targeted collection.
It's possible. We won't know until we get the information on Friday, and that's why, look, I think the NSA is going to comply. I am concerned. Yet we don't know whether or not the FBI is going to comply. And I've placed a call. I'm waiting to hopefully talk to Director Comey later today.
But Mr. Jackson, can you just
Are you
clarify?
concerned that
Yes.
Hold on. Hold on. Let me go over here.
Are you concerned that any of the surveillance was done illegally, or it was incidental but a legal?
That's a great. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I believe it was all done legally. I think it was all obtained legally. I think the question is was it Was it masked? Why was it was unmasked? Because it appears like we have new information about additional unmaskings. And then who was on the dissemination list, and why was the dissemination list so far if it was such specific information about the Trump transition? And it appears, and just to give you one piece of information I think might be helpful, it appears most of this occurred, from what I've seen, in November, December, and January. So that should probably, during the transition, that's correct.
But sir, I'm sorry, can you please clarify, because you said that the president's communications were incidentally collected, but then you said it's also possible. So was it collected, or is it possible that it was collected?
I just don't know the answer to that yet.
So we don't know if the president's communications
I know there was incidental collection regarding the president-elect and his team. I don't know if it was actually physically a phone call.
And you don't know if it was the president himself, his communication?
I do not know that.
Mr. Chairman, was the president's conversations or anything about the president appearing in intelligence reports? Is that what you're saying?
I have seen intelligence reports that clearly show that the president-elect and his team were, I guess, at least monitored and disseminated out in intelligence in what appears to be raw, or I shouldn't say raw, but intelligence reporting channels. As best as I can say that until I actually get all of the information that we've requested.
Why do you have to go to the White House to brief them?
Please talk to the cameras.
Shouldn't the administration be briefing you?
The administration, I don't think, is aware of this, so I want to make sure that I go over there and tell them what I know. Because it involves them.
Chairman, just to be clear, you said this is not related to a Russia investigation.
It is,
Can you give us some better idea?
the information that I have seen has nothing to do with Russia or the Russian investigation. So bluntly put, everything that I was able to view did not involve Russia or any discussions with Russians or any Trump people or other Russians. None of it has to do with Russia. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist, but we don't have it.
Can you give us a broader sense of what it was related to?
Look, a lot of it appears like it was. It looks to me like it was all legally collected, but it was essentially a lot of information on the president-elect and his transition team and what they were doing.
Was it incidental collection or direct collection?
I think it's, from what I've seen, it appears to be incidental collection. Any other questions, guys?
So what was found, just to be clear, it was the material that you have seen so far doesn't make any reference or connection to Russia, or are you saying the incidental investigations themselves more broadly?
Yeah, so this information was legally brought to me by sources who thought that we should know it, and it was there were no references whatsoever in everything that I read, and it was dozens. Let's leave it at that. Dozens of reports, and there was no mention of Russia.
And that's the hearing that the sources brought that information to you?
That's correct.
Mr. Nunes,
I'm not going to get into the sources or when it arrived, but I wanted to brief the speaker, which is what I did this morning. And obviously, I briefed. I put in calls to the directors. I've spoken to the CIA director and the NSA director, and I'm waiting to talk to Director Comey. And I'm going to head to the White House after the votes.
This is a chance for us to ask you what might have motivated the ban or restrictions on electronics on airlines, please. Do you know what's behind that?
Yeah, I'm not going to get to I'm not. I just refer you to DHS for that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Specifically,
Does this change? You've said repeatedly previously the president was wrong when he said he was wiretapped at Trump Tower.
Well, I've always said from day one that there wasn't a physical wiretap of Trump Tower. I still don't have any evidence to show that, in fact, at all. But clearly, what I read was clearly significant information about President-elect Trump and his team, and there were additional names that were unmasked, which is why we sent that letter on the 15th.
I was going to say, is this a response to that letter that you sent on the 15th?
Well, we don't know. It was no, it was not. This was information brought to me by sources, and I'm hoping that NSA, FBI, CIA get me anything else that they have. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, do you plan to make this information that's come to you from the source, do you plan to make any of it available now or in the future?
You mean publicly? Well, it's all classified information. But look, we're hopeful that we're going to get the information that I've seen, plus a lot more information on Friday.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Was this surveillance for
criminal investigation or a
No, it was not. It was not. Has nothing to do with any criminal investigation. This is a normal incidental collection from, at least from what I was able to read.
So if it's a legal surveillance, then they have to have a basis for surveillance. Isn't that correct?
That's
I just wonder what kind of surveillance they were doing.
That's correct. No, it was not criminal. It was normal foreign surveillance. Is what it looks like to me. But let's wait until we get all the information.
About President Trump, but not necessarily his communications specifically.
As of right now, that's what I've seen, but it's hard to know until we get all the information and we have the time to talk to the appropriate agencies.
That was targeted at foreigners?
Yes, sir.
You said you're not confident where this incidental collection took place, and you're not confident precisely who is involved in this incidental collection.
No, because all I was able to see were reports on information that was collected.
How can you be confident then that it did not have anything to do with Russia and the Russian?
Because I read through them and there was no mention of Russia.
Specifically, are we talking about Paul Manafort here in his communications or any other senior level Trump officials?
No. This appears to be all legally collected foreign intelligence under FISA, where there was incidental collection that then ended up in reporting channels and that was widely disseminated.
Can you say who, which individuals in particular?
Not at this time.
What is your response to this report about Paul Manafort today, showing that he worked a decade ago with Russian billionaire to help advance Vladimir Putin's interests? Is this going to be part of your committee's investigation?
Well, we're going to move on. I mean, probably next week. I haven't talked to Mr. Schiff yet about the next phase. As you all know, we've asked people to come in on their own or provide us information on their own. That's clearly happening based on some information is coming into us, and then we'll move into the second stage of the investigation. At that point, we'll discuss who we'll bring in. It'll likely be through depositions.
This sounds sort of like you're treating it as routine surveillance. I mean, it's incidental, but are you surprised at this discovery today?
Yeah, I mean, I am, because we went through this. I'm actually alarmed by it because we went through this about a year and a half ago. As it related to members of Congress. If you may remember, there was a report, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, but then we had to have a whole series of hearings, and then we had to have changes made to how Congress is informed of if members of Congress are picked up in surveillance. And this looks like it's very similar to that. It reminds me of what happened about a year and a half ago. Hold on. Let's somebody else over here. I'm just going to share. I don't know. I mean, look. I've only like I said, I've seen dozens of reports. I don't know if there's more than that. But clearly, I thought it was important enough for me to at least tell all of you, inform the speaker, and then I'm going to go to the White House and at least let them know what I've seen, because I think because I think they need to see it. If they don't have it, they need to see it.
And you're talking about the source of this information.
I'm sorry. We've got two questions going at the same time.
You're talking about the source of information.
There's no question. It's official and IC information.
Mr. Chairman, what you did from members of the intelligence community who are officially communicating to you, or was this?
Yeah, I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into this for the protections of American citizens, as you can imagine.
Which foreign country are we referring to here with regards to the legal, incidental?
Well, I'm not going to get into the exact countries.
Investigation. And what do you think of Democrats' calls for an independent commission or council? Is this time for that?
No, I mean, I think we're doing our investigation. We're following the facts where they lead, and clearly I thought this was important enough to come publicly and say what I have so far. All right, guys. We have somebody who hasn't asked one, and I got to run up and vote. Please, who haven't asked, please.
Was there definitely none of this pre-election? Is this all during the transition period?
I don't know that, but what I've seen was post-election. Yes, sir.
Is it the surveillance itself that alarms you, or is it the unmasking and dissemination, or both?
All the above. I mean, I'm really bothered by the unmasking, which is why we sent that letter on the 15th, because I want to see what additional names were unmasked. And now I know that there appears like there was additional names that were unmasked.
What is it about the surveillance itself that alarms you, if that was possibly just routine incidental collection on a foreign target.
I guess from what I read, it bothers me that would have any foreign intelligence value whatsoever, and why people would need to know that about President-elect Trump or his transition team.
Just to be clear, were these communications actually collected inside Trump Tower?
We don't know. We don't know that.
And how, is there any way? How do you not know whether or not it was Trump's personal communications? I mean, wouldn't that be clear if it was his?
Because until I get all the information, in its entirety from all the agencies, that we can go through it, and then we can go back and ask those types of questions, and I would just be speculating at this point. All right, guys, I got to get.
Can you just say, do you think right now the NSA or a member of the intelligence community was spying on Trump during the transition period?
Well, yeah, I guess it all depends on definitions of spying. Clearly it bothers me enough. I'm not comfortable with it, and I want to make sure that the White House understands it, and it's why I briefed the Speaker this morning on this.
But you think he may have been spied on?
Look, I'm not going to get into legal definitions here, but clearly I have a concern. All right, guys, I got to run to the floor. Thank you so very much. Thanks. Not happen. I've said this for many weeks, including the day after, a couple days after, in front of the press. That never happened. So that never happened.
Did President Obama order any kind of surveillance of the president?
Well, we don't know who sent the taskings. If the taskings were changed into what went into these intelligence reports, but we're going to try to find that out.
Permission to put out this information today. Did the Justice Department give you the okay to talk about this?
Justice Department doesn't have anything to do with this. So this is information. This is information that was brought to me that I thought the president needed to know about incidental collection, where the president himself and others in the Trump transition team were clearly put into intelligence reports that ended up at this White House and across a whole bunch of other agencies. And I thought it was important for the president to know this. That's why I briefed the Speaker this morning, and I came down here as soon as I could. Yes, sir. Hold on. Yes, sir.
How many people are you seeing in these reports, and do any of them currently work at the White House for Mr. Trump?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into the specifics of it because, look, I was only able to see a few dozen, of which I think a lot of it does have foreign intelligence value. So let's not. There were dozens of reports that I was able to see that we're hoping that the NSA, FBI, CIA will provide, because I know they exist, so I want them to provide them to our committee so that all the members have an opportunity to see what I've been shown.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir, right here.
What did the president tell you after you briefed him about it?
I think the president is concerned, and he should be. I think he'd like to see these reports. And I'd hopefully when we get them, hopefully they'll get them to the White House also.
Mr. Chairman, do you believe the president appropriately used the word wiretapping? Was it used correctly in his tweets based on the information that you have seen?
Well, look, I think the wiretapping, if you use it generally, like the president has said, he clearly, used it differently than what I think a lot of people took it, which was, did Obama actually wiretap Trump Tower, which we know didn't happen. I think the president's been pretty clear on that.
But the physical act of wiretapping, do you see anything in the information?
No, and I said that on day 2 after.
Mr. Chairman, you spoke of.
Can you rule out the possibility that senior Obama administration officials were involved in this?
No, we cannot.
Mr. Chairman, you talk about
given that you have said there was a FISA warrant which would have been approved by a judge, are you concerned that essentially you're saying members of the Trump team were in contact with people who were the target of a counterintelligence or some form of investigation?
No, I think you'd be this would be, I think you're reading too much into that. What this is normal intelligence reporting. It's just normal intelligence reporting. The question is should he himself or others, should they have been put into these reports? And I don't know the answer to that yet, but we're going to try to get to the bottom of it.
So your issue is the unmasking, not that there was this monitoring.
Well, there's 2 issues here. Okay, there's additional unmasking of names, which I think is totally inappropriate. But we have to get to I don't know how many names were unmasked, but I know there were additional unmaskings that occurred. And then you have the issue of the names that were that were put into these intelligence reports that we have to get to the bottom of, and this is why we sent the letter 2 weeks ago. We need a response to it.
Mr. Chairman, can I just clarify and ask three things? Are you suggesting that Mr. Trump's communications are in those reports first? Second, are you saying that you're concerned enough that this would trigger a different, separate investigation? And third, why did you not discuss this with the ranking member before you came to the White House?
So yes, no, and I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Schiff at some point to talk about where we go with this investigation. But I had to brief the Speaker first, and then I had to talk to the CIA director, the NSA director, and I'm waiting to talk to the FBI director because he still has not told us how he's going to get us this information. Then I went and talked to all of you, not you yourselves, but those of you who exist over at the Congress, and then I voted, and then I said I was coming here to brief the President, and I'll be glad to talk to others later.
Mr. Trump's communications, you believe, are in the reports that were acquired by FISA. You're concerned enough about it, but you're not calling for additional investigation.
Well, we are investigating it.
You just said no. You said no.
No, incidental, well, because we're already investigating. We're not opening a new investigation.
You said
It's part of...
it has nothing to do with Russia, and you're folding this into your investigation.
Well, because it has to deal with the unmasking of names and whether or not all this was gathered properly.
So, an ongoing investigation, you thought it was appropriate to come and talk to the President about it?
Just remember, we have had an ongoing investigation into Russia for a very, very long time and all of their activities. So, we have the scoping document of the Russian investigation, and we will continue to investigate anything and everything else that might be caught up in this, because clearly we are concerned about what ends up in intelligence products, why, and whether or not there was unmasking.
Mr. Chairman, to be clear,
I'm going to have to get back to the Capitol here.
Communications were in fact monitored. Can you say what he was communicating about or who he was communicating with?
No, I can't get into that. I'm sorry.
You also said that somebody brought you this information very recently. Can you tell us who brought you this information?
Well, I can tell you this, that we've been asking for people to come forward, and they came through the proper channels. They had the proper clearances, and I'm just going to leave it at that, because we have to protect people who came forward in the right manner and got the information.
To be clear here,
I'm not even going to say it's one person.
To be clear, you talk about this being collected incidentally, but you say it has nothing to do with Russia. Are you suggesting that these communications could have been collected incidentally as part of a criminal investigation, a criminal warrant?
No.
So how do you believe they were?
Because I read what I was in the dozens of reports I was able to see. I was able to determine that it looks like it was legal collection, incidental collection, but then made it itself into intelligence reports. So it has to deal with FISA, and there's multiple number of FISA warrants that are out there, but there's nothing criminal at all involved. Okay, guys, I gotta go. Hold on, I gotta take one more question. I'm sorry.
Was it information that was looked at in real time, or was it information that was collected, held, stored, and then allowed to be looked at later?
It was fairly quickly from what I've seen, but we have to, once we get the reports, then we can ask more questions of the agencies that produce the reports.
If it was legal collection, what is it that you find inappropriate about it, and are you attempting to give the president political cover for his wiretapping?
Because the reason that we do this, and we have all these procedures in place, is to protect American citizens who are incidentally collected. And so there's certain thresholds that have to be met to make it into foreign intelligence products. If something else happened where it appears to me like there were things that maybe they didn't meet the minimum qualifications, I don't know, but there are things to me that don't reach the level of foreign intelligence value. And if that's the case, you have to ask yourself, why did those end up in reports?
But just to clarify, this is not intentional spying on Donald Trump or anybody in his...
I have no idea. We won't know that.
Well, you said this is
we won't know that until we get to the bottom of did people ask for the unmasking of additional names within President-elect's transition team.
But you've said legal and incidental. That doesn't sound like
so
an active effort to spy.
I would refer you to, we had a similar issue with members of Congress that were being picked up in incidental collection a little over a year ago. We had to spend a full year working with the DNI on the proper notification for members of Congress to be notified, which comes through the Gang of Eight. I would refer you to that because it looks very, very similar to that. Would be the best way I can describe it.
And on the unmasking, who has access to those names?
Specifically unmasked. Was his name unmasked?
I'm not going to get into that, but I have every indication that it's clear who's in these reports.
And
I'm going to have to get going, guys. I have to get
One more.
involved.
Who would have access to those unmasked names? Just to be clear, would it just be people within the intelligence community, or?
We don't know that yet because we don't know who did the unmasking and then who it would have been disseminated to.
Right.
Okay.
When again?
All right. Thank you, guys.
The president.
I don't know. I assume I'm going to be fine with the healthcare bill, so I probably don't have to talk to him for a while. He has to talk to others. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clear the door, please.
Good morning, everyone. As promised, I'm going to continue to keep you apprised of new developments. Some significant developments, I think, occurred over the course of the last few days with information that was brought to my attention. And I'm going to just sort of read a very brief statement, and that's about all I can tell you, but I want to keep you fully informed of what's happening. At our open hearing on Monday, I encouraged anyone who has information about relative topics, including surveillance on President-elect Trump or his transition team, to come forward and speak to the House Intelligence Committee. I also said that while there was not a physical wiretap of Trump Tower, I was concerned that other surveillance activities were used against President Trump and his associates. So first, I recently confirmed that on numerous occasions, the intelligence community incidentally collected information about U.S. citizens involved in the Trump transition. Details about U.S. persons associated with the incoming administration, details with little or no apparent foreign intelligence value, were widely disseminated in intelligence community reporting. Third, I have confirmed that additional names of Trump transition team members were unmasked. And fourth and finally, I want to be clear, none of this surveillance was related to Russia or the investigation of Russian activities or of the Trump team. The House Intelligence Committee will thoroughly investigate surveillance and its subsequent dissemination to determine a few things here that I want to read off. Who was aware of it, why it was not disclosed to Congress, who requested and authorized the additional unmasking, whether anyone directed the intelligence community to focus on Trump associates, and whether any laws, regulations, or procedures were violated. I've asked the directors of FBI, NSA, and CIA to expeditiously comply with my March 15th letter that you all received a couple weeks ago, and to provide a full account of these surveillance activities. I informed Speaker Ryan this morning of this new information, and I will be going to the White House this afternoon to share what I know with the President and his team.